I was looking to buy an engine because I went a little crazy. And then from the Wisconsin surplus, so. Thirty something.
Oh, it's in the 30.
32. I thought they said 32.
Oh, all right.
They had one 30 and the other one was 31, or one might have been a 29.
Oh, yeah, Glady.
They looked almost.
By now defunct Persh. So.
Peter Persh. That time it was called Peter Persh.
Think of it. I'll try to figure out who to blame. You're not getting this earlier. I can't think about it now yet, but keep working on it.
Ah, it's okay. We'll get over it.
It's a recommendation on what we talked about later on Boyd Road.
Right.
So why we're picking who we're picking and how we got there. Kind of review it in the
Hey, Mickey.
the staff report.
Jerry Laspisa is currently an assistant DA with the Dane County DA's office. That's what I know.
Well, when is it?
Jerice.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I know. It's always a. She got her name out. About different municipalities, how they're doing. They had quite a nice thing to say about West Allis, how they're doing it. And they mentioned you.
Me?
Yeah, they mentioned, twice they mentioned your name.
Uh-oh.
That woman that's on
Tracy.
with him.
I know it's still going.
Tracy. I know
Yeah.
Tracy. It's like Sports Illustrated. You end up on the cover, you're done.
That clock right now.
You understood that one.
Yes, it
No,
is.
it is right because I fixed it. Yeah, I did.
Did it stay fixed?
Can I have your attention, please? It's
Today.
now 6 p.m. and the
Oh, you
October
fixed
8th
it
meeting
today.
of the CDA will please come to order.
Wayne Clark.
Yes.
Karen Gale.
Here.
Jason Metz.
Here.
Donald Namer.
Here.
Alderman Chaplesky.
Here.
Alderman Haas.
Here.
And Jerry Motter.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. First item, motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting.
So moved.
Second. Moved and second, no further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Minutes stand approved. You want to go right into closed session?
No, we can do the public portion of it, and then we'll go into closed
Well,
session.
you told me here from 2 to
We've got,
2 to 8. You want to start at 9?
oh, no, we could do 8, we could do 2. We could do some of it in the public. Our goal is to do as much of public as we possibly can.
Okay, will you tell me which one's
Yeah,
going to start with
we'll
2?
do 2.
Okay, item number 2, resolution consider development agreement by and between Chris Hansen Incorporated and the city of West Dallas. Mr. Stiebel.
Just want to draw your attention to the screen. I didn't know Patrick was going to put that up there. The Business Journal had a story on best cities to do economic development, and real estate development. West Dallas made the top 3. So that was why that's there. And I like the quote.
So
that they-
Milwaukee was an up and a down?
Yeah, they were up for the development people, and they were down for the building inspectors.
Ah.
That's because everyone likes Rocky.
Yeah, there you go. But I do like that the city of West Dallas has been very clear about what they want and pretty open book about how they want to help. I mean, that's,
Right. Yep, that's
I thought
true.
that was a good quote. Some developers, they certified about 40 developers. I wrote the story.
They were talking about West Dallas on the Steve Graffiti show this morning, and they met Patrick. But they were saying how West Dallas has a hard time, with new development because we're landlocked, and every time we have to do something, we have to dispose of something old or renovate something old. But they give them a pretty nice heads up on the radio program.
Who are those
And
characters?
that's all about the community development authority, the common council, and the mayor. Okay, Patrick?
Mr. Chairman and members of the authority, tonight on the agenda, we have a development agreement that is proposed between the city of West Allis and Chris Hansen Inc. You might recall in previous agendas, we talked about Chris Hansen acquiring around 9 apartment buildings that surrounded their current corporate campus. The site currently is the U.S. headquarters of Chris Hansen in the United States. They have around 270 employees at the site. When they bought these properties, they were looking to broaden their campus for future investment in the area. This is a look at some of those parcels. They've also, since this time, have acquired the Knights of Columbus Hall, which is located along 92nd Street, and many of you are familiar with that event space. The company is talking about a phase 1 expansion, which is around a 20,000 square foot addition that would proceed east or west on the corporate campus, and it'll be around $25 million value. And taxable, it's around $5 million. In the development agreement, they've outlined the developer intends to invest between 9 and 18 million. It's probably going to be more than that. There is in the development agreement a talk about a phase 2, but at this point, it's just substantial.
And we will talk about that.
Insignificant, but there is nothing to share publicly on that. The development agreement does say that over time, they look to add 100 full-time jobs to the site. Their timeline is December 31st. They have the Knights of Columbus demolished, construct in 2020, and be up and functioning by December 31st, 2022. If there's any type of future growth, we have a timeline in the development agreement that says if they look to get any type of economic incentive from the city, the construction must start before December 31st, 2025. One of the considerations within in the development agreement is that the city discussed the formation of a TIF district to help with financial assistance for the project. Now, the TIF is another item on the agenda, but just quickly, the phase 1 would generate $1.39 million over a 12-year period. Per our negotiations with Chris Hansen, we said we'd provide 12 years of TIF, and the first phase would be around $1.39 million. It would be a developer-funded TIF, so the developer or the company must perform to get the economic benefit of the TIF. So there's nothing where the city's paying any funds upfront for the TIF. There is administrative costs to create the TIF, and then administrative requirements to report on the TIF each year to the state, in which we would take those costs out as well as part of the audit. In order to, at the end of any consideration of the TIF, the developer must perform to obtain any of the financial benefit of the TIF. I can go into item number 3, Mr. Chairman, if you'd like.
We just did.
Oh, okay. I have another slide.
Keep going.
Keep going.
Item number 3 here outlines, you can see the financial, well, maybe you can't see, but this is prepared by Allis, our financial consultant on the TIF. Shows how they reached the $1.3 million of increment over the 12-year period. We have discussed this further in closed session.
If you would read number 3. We just did the discussion relative to the creation of Texas Unified District number 18, South 92nd Street, lot from Chris Hansen. We can go to 4 now.
Okay, we go to item 4. Resolution to consider amendment, number 1, amendment to site plan to the development agreement by and between the city of West Allis and developers West Quarter East LLC and West Quarter West LLC regarding South 70th Corridor Development Project. Mr. Stevel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On this project,
It's really clicky with those
yeah,
remotes.
they were proposing to have the hotel in this, on this side, on the northern part, and then have the office buildings on the south, and also having the parking lots underneath the office buildings. The change here is that they're gonna put 2 office buildings like this, and then a parking structure in the back, and then move the hotel to the south, which will effectively be across the street from the office building and the event center that's being proposed. And so the TIF amendment will be to approve an amendment to change the site plan. That's what will be voted on after we come back out of closed session. That is all.
You want
Okay.
to talk about that?
Also, as part of this project, they want to do a streetscape project along South 70th Street. The 1205 numbers are actually up if you drive by, you can see that. What they want to do is they want to finance that with a special assessment to the project. The CDA will not be involved in that, but that'll be the common council will be involved in that. But it's a public street right away, so we can do that. It'll help the developer keep his finances off his balance sheet and be able to use the city's resources to pay us back directly. And instead of having the hotel here, it's going to be back over there. That's all we have at this time, Mr. Chair.
All right, we'll go to item number 5. Item number 5, resolution to consider Beloit Road Management Agreement by and between Beloit Senior Housing LLC and Ogden and Company Incorporated. Mr. Stevel.
So the idea here is we were reviewing the efficiencies of Beloit Road Senior Housing as a complex. We were looking at how Public Works is limited in terms of some of their resources available to serve Beloit Road. And we were looking at how we can just overall better manage this in terms of a privatization. We did it early on as part of a lean project, Luke Radomski and myself, who's our community development supervisor in housing. And we were looking at how long it took, how many work orders we were getting, what they were, etc. And we learned that we need to do a better job in terms of getting units ready, turning them over, and getting things fixed. Sometimes it took a little while to get items fixed and turn over compared to private comparisons. So what we did was did a request for proposals on property management, property maintenance, snow and ice controls and ground maintenance, as well as low-income housing tax credit compliance. So there's a number of things that we needed to wrap into this RFP. We sent the RFP out to 6 experienced companies and we received 2 responses. They were Mercy Housing and Ogden. Both of them had similar approaches to the property, but a lot of it was, we'll kind of see how this will come out and then we'll adjust the budget. And we were like, no, we want to see the budget and see how this compares. Mercy Housing suggested a full-time property maintenance staff and full-time property manager. Ogden was, at first they were looking at that, but then they came back and said, you know what, we'll put a full-time property maintenance staff person there and a part-time property manager. They did that because they think they can do some of the ground maintenance as well as some of the work orders by having a person at the complex. We also looked at how they would respond to sometimes we deal with issues such as bed bugs and extermination of mice and things like that. How they would do that. Both of them would use specialized contractors. We're doing that now. One of the unique things by this is that both of them would have to contract out to get snow and ice removal on the property. And they believe they can obtain some savings for the complex by doing that. Now, you know, there is a standard within the senior housing community of having a bare concrete, so salting, removing the snow. This is going to be more operated like a private sector property. So we'll see how those costs come in if we have one of those January type of winters. But, you know, in review, we looked at how they would provide. One thing with Mercy Housing that was concerning is that it would take 90 days for them to onboard onto the property. That seemed like a long time. Ogden said within a couple weeks, most 30, to get on board to start managing the Beloit Road Senior Housing Complex. At the end of the day, the bottom line, we could obtain more efficient operation, potential cost savings of $17,000 or so, and we would have privatization of services at Beloit Road. On the left of this budget chart that you see here is $61,305 is the net after reserve payments. That was an actual number relating back to 2018. The number on the right, proposed by Ogden, is that they went through our budget and looked at how they could operate the property and prepared a budget. And we look like we can make up $17,000, as well as they factored in a little bit higher vacancy at this time compared to how we were doing it. But they can make that up by getting people and getting the units turned over faster, so we can make a little additional revenue at the property. They get to share in some of that through the management fee that's calculated off of how many units are rented in terms of their contract. that would sum up my, at the end of the day, our recommendation is to pick Ogden, and tonight's action is to do a recommendation from the CDA. That recommendation is then forwarded to Boston Capital, who bought the tax credits for Bullet Road Senior Housing, and they have to approve the selection of Ogden as our property manager. If they don't, then we have to, explore other means, but at this time, we are recommending Ogden to manage the property.
They've already said they would.
Just for the record, they will have a different aspect to this. They do a lot of their rent collection online, so, automatic withdrawals, or they'll have a person there work with the person, but most of it is electronic. They also do a lot of 1-800 number. You call the 800, they have people then that can direct people to the property. So it's a little bit different than having to call the city or Public Works or something like that. So it's a lot more like a private property management. There is an aspect that we could do yet for this Public Works to make some money, and that is our refuse collection. They could provide that to the property yet, as well as do the recycling at the property.
And we'll pay them for it.
Right.
Mercy is out of Chicago, has one property here in Milwaukee. Ogden has over 200 properties here in Milwaukee, so they've got the resources to be able to respond. I think even if it costs us more, the resident's gonna get a quicker, better service, I think, than the public, that our Public Works Department has time to provide.
Mr. Clark?
Thank you. Patrick, the fact that there'll be a lot of technology or computer accessing for this activity, will that impact our senior citizens in that facility? In other words, the people there probably don't have the skills.
I wouldn't necessarily say that. We do have Wi-Fi there, and some of them have contracted out to get their own Wi-Fi, as well as they come into the community center to use the computers.
Well, and I would assume that if they're on any type of monthly payment, that's
Right.
going direct into their checking account.
Correct.
And so I would assume the rent would come directly out of their checking account. So from that perspective, they probably don't need to do anything.
And they would work, and the people that from Ogden do this on many other properties, and they have the relationship building skills to work with the individuals that are at Bullet Road.
There'll be
So
automatic withdrawals.
Automatic, right?
There will be some change, but I say that because there's always that one person or couple people that might experience a technical change.
Go ahead.
And the panel that was empowered to work on this, I obviously know you and I know Chris, and I think have a high regard for her work. I'm delighted she was on there. Who are these other folks? Cindy, Robert, and Luke, what do they do?
So Cindy works at Public Works, and she handles sending out the painters, and sending people out to the property. So she was part of the work order side of what we were looking at. So we included her in terms of her experience with Bullet Road as part of the review. Luke oversees the day-to-day operations of our Section 8 voucher program, and we provide HAP payments to Bullet Road. And he also took on the responsibility of overseeing Bullet Road after Christy Johnson left.
I'd move approval.
I second it.
Been moved for approval and second. Go ahead, please.
Will the contract with Ogden have any risk sharing relative to collection rates or vacancy rates?
So what you mean?
No, we're pretty consistent in our occupancy. The only issue on occupancy is how long it would take Public Works to turn over a unit. They're gonna do it a whole lot faster. They have projected a higher vacancy rate in their financing analysis, so it'll probably come out better than what they're projecting.
We would have, I think you might, are you referring to evictions?
No, I'm talking about,
Oh.
are they gonna guarantee any sort of
No.
collection rate or any?
No.
If we're gonna change our process, it's
However,
just,
we
it's
could look
just
at
a
that next year.
projection.
However,
But it's
they're-
been pretty consistent, so there isn't much fluctuation in.
The contract, I think, stipulates that they get a portion of the management fee, and the management fee is calculated based on how much rent is brought in. So it's in their incentive not to have a
So there is
vacancy.
some incentive.
Right.
Okay. Next question, if I could.
Go ahead.
Do we have Mercy's cost proposal?
We did not get Mercy's, we focused on Ogden's.
So you didn't open it?
Yeah, we did. We have theirs.
But we didn't ask for a
We
budget.
just didn't provide it.
Right.
Even though I made the
Go ahead,
motion,
Mr.
the
Clerk.
follow-up question, was the panel unanimous in this decision?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Resolution passes. One opposed. We go to number 6. Then we go to, go right to 6.
Pardon?
Number 6.
Yeah.
Discussion relative to redevelopment of 111 West Greenfield Avenue, former Pick and Save. Mr. Clark.
Mr. Chairman, if we could hold that entire discussion to closed session.
All right. Number 7, discussion relative to financial request by West Allis Community Child Care LLC for location at 6682 West Greenfield Avenue.
Mr. Chairman, if we could hold that for closed session.
Okay, number 8, discussion relative to the property located at 10620 West Greenfield Avenue.
I think we, Mr. Chairman, what this is a discussion relative to the Burger King that's vacant on 106 and Greenfield Avenue. As you're well aware, it's been sitting vacant for a number of years. Burger King continues to pay the lease. The property is for sale in terms of the land that's under Burger King. It's an income property, so the family that owns it is collecting rent from Burger King. Even though Burger King does not operate there, they continue to pay a lease. So that's a land lease. So the building is technically owned by Burger King as well as the parcel to the west. So it's split the site, and that's owned by Burger King. We are reviewing on how to address this particular property and see how the city might possibly be involved, and we'll discuss that further in closed session.
You want to go into closed session now? That's where we are. Or you want to go to 9?
I just walk, because Debbie's here. We could go into closed session now, and then
Okay.
come back out and do
Okay.
the rest of the stuff.
Okay.
For agendas 2 to 8, the committee may convene in closed session pursuant to provisions of section 19.85/1/E for the state statutes for the purpose of deliberating investment in public funds whenever competitive bargaining reasons required a closed session. This committee may reconvene in open session after completion of the closed session to consider the balance of its agenda. Make a motion, can we have a motion to go into closed
So
session?
moved.
Been moved in second. We still need a Stevel.
Going back to item number,
All right, on air is on, we're on air.
oh, excuse me. Okay, we can go from the top, we go from the top down. Item number 3, and go down all the way through.
Yeah, do those folks.
This way Debbie could go home.
Okay,
So if you do item number 2,
we can do 2, 4, and 6 and vote on all 3 of them. They were discussed in closed session.
So moved.
We're going to vote on items 2, 4, and 6, which were discussed in closed session. Is any,
So moved.
is there any further discussion?
And we're moving for approval. I just want to make sure we all understand that,
Right.
right?
Yes.
Okay, yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Items 2, 4, and 5 pass.
thank you, Debbie. Item number 3, we're gonna hold.
That's easy. Yes.
Item number 3, we're gonna hold.
3.
Item 3, we're holding, the TIF.
Oh, yes, that was just,
Item number 5, oh, we already approved that.
That's approved.
And
6,
then
discussion.
6, we'll hold that.
We'll hold that. 7, discussion relative childcare that you're gonna take care of.
We can just hold that.
Yes. And item 8, property located at 106. We'll hold that. We can hold that. We'll go to item number 9, resolution to consider amendment to the financial real estate consulting services contract with SB Freeman Development Advisors, the amount not to exceed $30,000. Mr. Stevo.
This is the same firm we used for years, and they help us structure our deals in Chicago.
I move approval.
Second. Move for approval and second.
How
Any
much,
further? Mr. Clark.
How much will we have spent this year?
This year,
Yes.
probably less than 30,000.
This is for 1 year?
Well, this is until it runs out of money. We will keep using them until they run out of money, then we come back like today and say we need more money.
Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution passes. Item 10, discussion relative to family self-sufficient grant for housing and urban development in the amount of $72,000 related to the Housing Choice Voucher Program. Mr. Stevel.
Patrick?
thank you, Mr. Chairman. What we did in housing is submit an application in partnership with some local entities such as the school district, WIBIC, Milwaukee, different groups like that, to help our Section 8 participants work to become self-sufficient. In other words, help improve their financial situation so that they wouldn't be as dependent on Section 8 or improve their financial situation. That they could save the savings from the federal program and put it towards something in the future. This is a $72,000 grant. Our goal is to help 25 participants. We're looking into see if it's renewable for 3 years, but right now the agreement is for 1 year at $72,000. We look to possibly consider outside consultants to help with the coordination of this activity, but to get a few of our participants to upskill or get a GED, etc. And then, you know, one of the fears of Section 8 participants is if they improve their financial situation, they lose their assistance. So the motivation is somewhat stymied by that. This situation is to help them save that savings under the federal program, and they get that at the end of when they complete their program to become self-sufficient.
We're not asking you to vote on anything today. We want to give you a heads up that we're trying to put something together.
I have to
We'll
accept the
become-
grant, though.
Pardon?
I have to accept the grant online, so I need direction
Oh.
that I can accept the grant. HUD has
Okay.
been asking me to accept it.
Very good.
So tonight's not a resolution, it's a discussion that, or a directive to accept the grant.
We could just, not a resolution, but just a motion to accept the grant. That's what you're looking for.
I move to accept the grant.
Second.
Been moved to second to accept the grant. Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion stands
Thank you.
accepted. Item 11, resolution to consider extension of time request for a letter of intent and agreement with Capri Restaurant Group for the reunion located at
We don't have
6610 West Greenfield Avenue. Mr. Stevo.
Sean?
Thank you. Yeah, this is a proposal to extend the time for the letter of intent. The CDA at the July 9th meeting gave the reunion, Chris Paul, 60 days to do due diligence through the letter of intent, and that time has expired, and so we're just, Mr. Paul is asking that the CDA give him another 90 days of due diligence. He has made a lot of progress in the time since he was last before the CDA. He's in for Plan Commission submittal, will be on the October Plan Commission agenda, will be on the first meeting in November for the council, and has construction drawings complete, is getting construction estimates, as the bank lined up. Things are going, really well in that regard, just it takes time, and
Move for approval. Been moved for approval?
I second, but I have one question.
Go ahead, Alderman.
30.
Yeah, Sean,
90.
60 days would be a good
Straight 90.
extension.
John, he has a question for you.
That's right.
yeah, I think you just said it. 90 days is what you're asking for?
90.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Should take us into December, but he wants to close in November.
That's the other one, that's 60.
Pardon?
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution passes. Item 12, resolution to consider extension of time request for letter of intent and agreement with Paul Revised LLC Group for the property located at 6771 West National Avenue and potential portions of 6700 West Mitchell Street. Mr. Stevel.
Sean?
As you're aware, this is the building that the property that the CDA currently owns, and has an LOI with Baum Revision Group to put in an event space through historic rehabilitation. They'd also do some food production users and other associated uses. They entered into an LOI with CDA on August 13th for 90 days. Hasn't quite expired yet, but we wanted to get ahead of the game, I guess, based on where they're at, and just ask. They've requested a 60-day extension with the ability of the executive director to give another 30 days. They're currently in for the part one at the National Park Service. They've already received the state recommendation to the National Park Service that their application get approved for historic designation. So National Park Service has 10 more days to make their decision on it. Once they, if they approve it, they then go into the part two process, which is the detailed construction drawings, which is extremely costly for a developer, and they have to really dig in. So fingers are crossed. Things are going really well. They've been going through this building quite often with different specialists in the construction fields, and so things are looking good. And so anyway, we just so the extra 60-day extension would take it to November 9th period, at which is right around the time that we would hope to be nearing closing. It would likely be more of an early December type thing, but so 90 would get them to around that time. I'm sorry, I was looking at the wrong one. So the 60 days would get them to a January 13th expiration in the LOI, which is when they're hoping to close. The additional 30 would be built in case things happen, which would take it to a February 12th.
We'll give them 60 days to keep a short leash on them. Then you give the authority to extend it another 30 days if we feel the progress is being made.
I move approval of the 60 and 30.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Been moved for approval and second. Is there any further discussion?
Hey, you're going the wrong way.
If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay,
Resolution passes.
hold on.
Item 13.
There's a task force agenda.
Item 13, resolution approving contract with Rambo Envirocon for providing professional environmental services for various redevelopment and blighted related projects in the amount not to exceed $25,000. Mr. Stevel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Rambo has been doing a lot of investigations, most notably 116th and Morgan, among other sites that they've done for us. They just completed 116th and Morgan investigations. They put 8 borings in. There was always a fear that we're going to find incinerator ash or garbage or white goods being dumped in there. None of those were found.
Wow.
It was fairly clean.
Shock.
There was, oh, here we are. There
Wow.
was some petroleum products. in the
We can put our
middle.
condos up.
We've run into a lot of petroleum products in the past. So this resolution that you're doing now is to provide funds to continue the investigation.
And
And
Mr.
any
Chair.
others that we need to do for other districts. We use this firm or another firm just to keep them honest.
Mr. Chairman.
Alderman
So,
Carson.
no, Mr. Haas, please, I'll wait.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. So, yeah, we seem, just like you said, Mr. Stiebel, we do this regularly, we approve this regularly. Is this $25,000 a year that we're usually doing? Or?
No, it's for each of those holes, if they find any contaminant in there, then they have to do another round of tests all around that one circle. And then they gotta find the vertical and horizontal extent of any contamination. They gotta map where that contamination is at. And then if one of those ones hits something, then they gotta do another boring around that one. So it's a matter of trying to define exactly how deep the contamination is, how wide the contamination, and what the contamination is, and then also determine what the amount of contamination there is, so that we can figure out what the remedial action would be. In most cases, it's gonna be encapsulation. Some of that may be hot spot removal, but what we found to date is really good in that we didn't find a lot of garbage. So I don't think that we're not gonna find any, but I know that there's a developer to the Greenfield site, the property, he found some incinerated ash up here. And what he'll do is just encapsulate it, put a park, green space on top of it, and take off. I thought we might find something in here, but this boring didn't, so it was really good.
Okay, thank you.
But the Rambo scope also includes consultation with developers that are buying city-owned properties in the environmental side, such as the 68th and Mitchell site. As they explore the site for that, they provide the city's environmental consulting review to UHS for helping sell that property. That's in their scope, as well as administrative assistance with our US EPA revolving loan fund.
Thank you. Mr. Clark?
So, John, more environmental work has to be done on this property?
Yes. I would bet $100,000 before we're done. I'm just guessing.
Okay, thank you.
Well,
So moved.
Been moved. We have a second.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item 13, resolution passes. One more, last item on the agenda, consideration relative to report on redevelopment initiatives. There's quite a few.
Anybody has any questions?
Any question? Mr. Clark?
Just an observation, in the past, for a number of years, this list was 10, 15, 20 items long, and it gave us an opportunity to at least ask questions or for you folks to bring things to our attention. Now you've reduced it to 5 items, and I would think that we would like 116th and Morgan on here. We'd like the State Fair Park and resurrect that longer list, so we at least have the option of talking about it.
If you would like that, we can certainly do that. In the interest of fuller public disclosure, we've made it smaller.
I would like it, maybe no one else does, but do it for me on my sheet.
Jason?
I was kind of thinking the same thing, is that because it's not on there, and I'm not on the attorney side of things, if it's not on here, can you even talk about it?
No,
So-
but you can call individually and ask, right? You just don't do it in public session where you've got the
We can't act.
quorum, right?
Yeah.
I think
So-
the issue we had was that it was so long that there were a lot of items on here that weren't being talked about, and it's,
and that's fine, they're on there, it gives us a chance to talk about them. Put them back on.
Yes, sir?
Well, another option is when we get the agenda, can we say, hey, this is missing, can we talk about it? And have you guys add it to the final?
Another option.
Well, why don't you put it
I think we all know that a certain person would like 116th and Morgan to be item F.
Item 8, right?
At 8, yeah.
I think the skate park was
Okay, A
supposed to be
sub
that.
1.
All right, so are we done?
Okay, one
I don't have a
second.
skate
I
park
see
in
the
my
Holiday
pocket.
Inn Express, they're working up there. The Holiday Inn Express, they're working up there?
Yep, they're working.
Awesome.
Big,
We have a couple slides.
Oh, look at that.
So,
It's on the road.
so in terms of the Mandel project, of course, you know the clinic's done, the apartments are coming along. They're saying by November 1st, they possibly will have one, a unit available for lease, and they have a,
Oh.
They've leased 8 units so far. They want it to be in November 1st. I don't know how they're gonna do that, but they've got
Okay.
200 inquiries that they're writing down.
Wow.
so you can see some of the current status of, they have a model unit done. Sean had the opportunity to go in a new walkie event where they walked through the property as well as some other properties
Oh,
in the
that's
area.
cool.
So
We'll get you in this model unit, one of those tour.
the item that we are currently working on with Mandel on the Sona side is the stormwater collection, which is important for the Nona part, to be able to figure out what the sizing of this for land development and making sure that we accommodate all the stormwater needs for the project. I think today we decided that this does do that, and we'll be forwarding the site for additional, I think they're coming in to ask us for money for a portion of this, so we'll have
It'll
to
be
see.
kept, so it's-
Yeah.
What they want you for.
84th in Greenfield, Ogden
Okay.
project, units available in January. You can see it's coming along as well, too.
January, February.
Right. Only reason why is John and I drove by the other day and the developer was out here. Seems like we're always crossing paths right here with them, so. But that's an update on that
This is
property.
This is supposed to look like this. That's part of the interior. The exterior is really totally different, but just want to give you a heads up.
Okay, whatever.
The Highway 100 market analysis and conceptual plan. We've hired Ginsler. They've completed their focus groups, and a number of you participated in that. And thank you very much for doing so. They've responded with the results of the focus groups and a map and highlighting some key areas. October 17th at 6 p.m., they're having a review of what items findings currently that they have in some working group sessions at 6 p.m. at Irving School. Then there will be a November meeting. I think that date's going to be set tomorrow when we have our weekly call with a report in December.
Wow.
We completed a survey of the neighborhoods along the Highway 100 corridor. It went out, the link to the survey went to the aldermen, to the neighborhood associations, was placed on Nextdoor, and then the mayor also said, I have this out here for the Highway 100 neighborhood, please fill this out. We had 231 respondents, and this is not scientific, this is just out of Survey Monkey, here's the result. I am not stating anything here of opinion one way or another, but this shows why people go to Highway 100. I thought that made a lot of sense, this one. The one thing that came out that was kind of interesting, so I'm kind of giving a preview to the 17th meeting, is what the citizens were saying were issues of the Highway 100 area, and I think this came out a little bit different than the focus groups in their findings. The traffic is a huge issue. The second one was safety and crime. And I find that's concerning to me, because if that is a public perception, they change their shopping habits based on they feel uncomfortable or they won't go there to eat. So I don't know exactly what that means, but when I see that at the second top issue, that's way different than what came out of the focus groups. So that was
Highway 100 used to be
interesting.
Lots of problems with just the traffic. That's why we stopped the cruising,
Right.
and it could be part of that as well.
And then in the other top ones were access to business, new businesses or aesthetics improvements. So again, I'm not saying anything scientifically here, but when you look at this and you see something like this jump out at you at the top, it's just something for us to note.
Okay, so was that the question, safety / crime? Because I could see someone looking at safety as the issue with driving, Highway 100, that not necessarily, so it's weird that they're in the same group.
Okay. I don't know if it's
That's kind
safety.
of what I thought too. That's why I brought up the cruising issue, just to get in and out of the traffic. It's
We'll
right now.
look into that.
Yeah, moving on.
Versus, I don't think I've heard any situation where, oh yeah, I went to the grocery store and my car was broken into, or,
Yeah,
Well-
moving on.
I don't know, whatever.
We'll look into that further
Just, what
by
people.
next week. Holiday Inn or in 2 weeks. Holiday Inn Express is under construction. See,
Wow.
they've moved dirt around the whole site already. So they're getting the slab ready, and we don't have anything to discuss in the skate park. That was there.
Okay.
Okay.
No further business to come before this committee?
I will move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Way to go.
Aye. Meeting stands adjourned.
That big one.